because of her eyebrows. She just was not.
Okay, this is live, first of all, so
we're going to talk about eyebrows.
Questions about this, though. Wait, what?
I don't know. She didn't like that we were discussing eyebrows.
Because
she was just, I don't know if she just like found it boring or she didn't want to be told how to groom her eyebrows. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think she's watching right now. Who knows?
I don't know.
But I have no problem. Anyway, so we're not going to talk about eyebrows.
Yes, we are.
Although, there's another video that I want to watch because now I'm really into this idea of laminating my eyebrows at home.
Oh my god. This is confusing.
Why?
Because it seems like a really innocuous thing to have feelings about.
To be like,
Like, I don't do discussions about eyebrows. I don't know. It's like,
I don't know. Maybe she thought it was silly.
So she hasn't watched at all, because a lot of the discussions are, not a lot of it is silly, but like...
She was also commenting on how at some point, I mean, there's been a lot of words that we haven't known.
Yeah.
She was like, why don't you know the words beforehand? Why don't you look them up beforehand? And I was like, no, the whole point is we discover as we go along. We're like reacting. We're discovering the book along with everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
She thought that was strange.
Yeah. So this is not that kind of professional operation.
It's not yet.
Not yet. We look them up sometimes on the way.
Along the way.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Which seems sufficient to me. Sometimes.
I mean, most of the time, it's just some kind of cavalryman. Man.
Right.
Most of the time, that's what it's been.
It's like, you know, a Batman or...
Right. Who's the other thing?
There's no other thing ever.
It's
There's
just
no
that.
big Batman. This should be called Napoleon and the Batman. I have had such a hard time trying to put my freaking thoughts into words about last night. It's like, it's really weird. I feel like I've progressed not at all. Except to say that it would be, you know how you were like, Bagration, I don't know anything about him?
Yeah.
It would be like him now saying, Napoleon knew all about all of the plans that the Russian had since Bagration had been a spy. And you're like, wait, what? He was a spy? Mm-hmm. And he doesn't feel the need to explain. Like, just doesn't feel the need to add to that. And it's like, since he was a spy for the French. And you're like, hang on, what? That feels like a little bit like this.
Okay. So, like, out of nowhere,
yes,
you're just, like, left with kind of gossip about this person. And that's the only information now you have about her.
It's not even gossip, because if he said Bagration was actually, he being Tolstoy,
yeah,
not anybody in the thing, right?
Yeah.
If he said, since he was a spy the whole time, blah, 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 blah. It's like a curveball that's not acknowledged. It's not acknowledged to be a curveball. It's like, feels gaslighty.
But wait. Okay. I don't think she's guilty.
I don't know if she is or isn't. I don't know the first goddamn thing about her. Except that she's the worst.
I don't think she's the worst.
That's nice of you.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you think that he's directing us to think she's kind of the worst?
I don't think he gives two shits how we feel about her. No, I think we're supposed to be like, oh, she's a little coarse and...
Right.
Who would want to be
So
around her?
I guess it was just like going off on like my view of her is the way that Tolstoy wants me to look at her.
Right.
And so if I'm like, oh, I think she's innocent, I think there's more to be revealed.
I'm not suggesting she's not innocent, because I agree.
Yeah.
It seemed like a legitimate possibility that there was no affair.
Yeah.
From that scene between them.
Yeah.
So I'm not suggesting that she's.
Because also, like, this was all introduced, it's all been hearsay. Which I understand that's like, wait, like, what is on the other side of this? Where is she? Because this was first introduced when, like, what? It was like Anna Mikhailovna, was it her? Like, someone to her. Anyway, right.
She was reporting about it.
She was reporting that this had happened. And then it was like, oh, the whole town's gossiping about it. And then Pierre believes everyone else. And then we just see, like,
Pierre. Not at first, but yeah.
Not at first, but he's affected by it. He knows what everyone's saying, and then he's at dinner, and he's just having his thoughts. So it's all, we definitely don't have that side of the story.
Right.
I'm trying to make a point with this.
I
guess the fact that it is all hearsay makes me believe that it's all hearsay. Like, I think that's intentional.
Cool. I guess I just.
And there's also, like, obviously a lot of commentary on the society itself.
Yep.
And they talk about each other.
Yeah.
And then it just destroys lives.
That seems true, but this.
It hasn't really been.
It hasn't happened much.
Like, even the fact that they got engaged, and that had more to do with the peer pressure than anything else. It's like the society is like its own living entity that controls these things.
Which honestly is true in, like, many cultures going back hundreds of years.
Yeah.
That marriage is a societal contract.
Right.
I don't know.
But that doesn't change things for you.
What, the hearsay bit?
Yeah. Like, you think it's more, like, careless and not negligent, like, cruel.
It is kind of negligent.
Okay.
With stuff like this, when I have reactions like this, there usually is a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that obviously goes without saying. But what I mean is, like, the fact that I can't quite put it into words doesn't make me think that I'm making it up.
No. No. If you're having a response, there's something legitimate there.
Yeah, I wish I could be more articulate about it, I guess. The furniture thing was the closest I got to it, which is to say, obviously a writer would not feel any obligation to explain a piano. It's a piano.
Yeah.
Although. And that handling of, as you would handle a piece of furniture if the story is not about the piece of furniture, feels like a similar handling here.
Is it also that
it doesn't occur? It's like it doesn't occur to him that this would require explanation. Because, like, who cares about what's going on there? Which, again, if this whole, like, affair, if this whole duel, all of this, if it had been different, like, I think that's a perfectly acceptable, like, as you were saying, we don't know anything about a lot of people. So you're just not introducing them. Okay, fine. Mm-hmm. I feel like she's there. Like, she's very, you know, and we, I guess, have different experiences of this, but I feel like she's been very much in the space.
Mm-hmm.
So she doesn't seem like some kind of like besides the point character who like this just isn't about her. Doesn't feel like that.
So it's actually worse because she is a main character.
That's the reason I feel like I'm owed an explanation.
Like, yeah. It's just all of a sudden like, okay, and now she's gone. Because maybe she cheated.
Right. And then this happened and we've suddenly changed the way that we're talking about her, not just in Pierre's eyes, because obviously he's had a huge change of heart. But even in his own...
In the descriptions.
In the descriptions.
Yeah.
It feels like a turn does take place and it's a turn that doesn't... Which is fine. I've got no problem with turns. But I don't like them not being acknowledged, I guess.
Yeah.
And I feel like that you have to do very little to acknowledge something like this. Like there's no acknowledgement that it's sudden.
There's no acknowledgement of the progression of the character or like where she's coming from or...
Yeah.
We only ever really get to see her from Pierre's eyes.
And I would argue Tolstoy's.
Right.
From their two eyes.
Yeah. I did feel a little bit that, and maybe I predicted this because of the whole thing with Andrew. I do feel there's like a little bit of that like, oh, women are these like lovely, gorgeous creatures. Fangs come out.
Don't ever get married type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then they show their true selves. And men are like,
yeah,
what if we trapped ourselves into?
Yeah.
So I did kind of feel like, oh, maybe she'll become evil.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's something in that he doesn't feel like it requires explanation.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that I'm like, wait, what? Because furniture moving from one place to another, at one point being on the 10th story and at another point crashing to the ground, doesn't require explanation, really. It's just like that's what happened.
Right.
Perfunctory.
Yeah.
She seems perfunctory. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously this is probably very boring to see me try to put words on things, but
I think you're doing a really good job about it, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I think you are putting words to it. Yeah. What's happening right now?
Huh?
I'm like very conscious of how short my shorts are. So I'm covering it.
They are very short.
I'm like, I don't want to reveal something.
Do you want to wear pants? Or something?
I'll wear this pillow.
But if you want it to be there the whole time, sure.
People are going to think I'm not wearing any pants. I swear.
Do you think they'll think that?
Well, sure. Hard to say.
Do you guys think you'll think that?
Hard to say.
I'm
going to throw on some pants.
You can exit with the pillow.
Oh no! Okay, but fine. Where are we at? Chapter 7?
Let me see. I have to wakey my book. Yeah, 7. So what has happened?
What a difference.
It's a new world.
I can cross my legs. I can be comfortable. No, I think I might be the slow one who might not be able to put like visuals or understanding to your words.
I don't think that's true.
Okay, I'm just saying that.
Well, I'm surprised your explanation is maybe I'm the slow one.
Maybe I'm the slow one. Yeah. It could be.
I don't think that's what's happening.
Someone else in this scenario could be like, yes. Da-da-da-da-da.
Also, we might both be slow. You saw that? What about that? I'm not used to this. I'm used to like being able to say what I think. So this feels like it feels weird.
That's what I feel like all the time. Over there.
Constipated?
Yeah, like verbally constipated.
Like yeah. I feel like generally I feel quite okay about my words. So this seems really strange.
One day, just sit on that toilet long enough.
Sit on that. We don't need to pursue that. That analogy.
So what happened? Obviously, we've been talking about it.
He's gone off. Oh, he's left his like whole fortunes to her?
Pretty much. They separated.
Yeah.
There was a duel. Dolokhov was shot.
That I think
also
was
didn't like that
very
either.
weird. Very weird.
Pierre had never held a pistol before, and he shot Dolokhov, who's a soldier, captured a Frenchman.
Yeah, he's competent. This is another excellent example. I feel like I am owed an explanation as to why an excellent soldier just all of a sudden is wildly incompetent and just like walks in. I don't know. That seems really weird. Then say that.
Imagine Tolstoy just like, it was an off day for Dolokhov.
Weird day. Tuesday has never been his day.
Yeah, like literally Pierre walked into a snowbank.
And
then his hands are shaking and he shoots him. And
he's got his left hand behind his back because he's desperately wants to support it.
So he's like, no.
He's like, I need to remember that I'm not allowed to do that.
Safety at home. Stay home. That was loud.
Sounded like an Amber Alert.
Yeah, it was a stay at home alert.
I wonder how effective those Amber Alerts are. Because when I see it, I'm just like, ugh. I'm not like, ugh, but I'm like, I feel not equipped to help.
Yeah. I guess it's just like if you happen to be in a park or something.
Seems like you have to know about cars a little bit. Like you have to be able to be like, oh, it's a silver. I don't know. That seems like kind of a niche skill. And you'd have to be noticing license plates? Does that mean you then have to quickly start looking at license plates when you get the alert? I feel like I ask a lot of questions, the answer to which is I don't know.
Well,
that's okay.
I think it's just like, it's something they can do that I'm sure there's statistics about this. How effective this is.
For sure.
Like,
I guess doing it is obviously better than not doing it.
Exactly.
But I do, as the recipient of Amber Alerts, I do feel like I'm too stupid to make a difference in this moment. Like it feels like the car could be right next to me and I wouldn't put it together.
I never think I'm never in the area. So I'm like, I can't.
What area?
I don't know. It's never like I'll be at home. So I'll be like, cool.
Oh, you have to rush out and get in your car.
That's really what they want. They want all of us.
I would appreciate that.
Like they're on the streets.
That would be like a more
appropriate response, actually.
Yeah. If they were like, guys, please drop what you're doing and hurriedly search, that would make me feel clearer almost about what to do than the Amber Alert, which just is like car information. Cool.
Yeah.
Also, do children really get abducted that often?
I don't know. This is going down a dark alley.
Am I? I was gonna say.
I don't want to talk about child abductions right now.
Completely screwing us up here by just talking about one dark thing after the other?
No, it's fine. I'm just slowly. No, it's fine.
I don't want to talk about
child abductions. Let's talk about this. Let's really go into it.
No.
How many happen per year?
Tons.
What are statistics?
Tons.
How many children get found?
So many. No, none. It's the worst. Cool. Everything's the worst, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really is.
Kind of everything's the worst.
Yep.
When there are those situations that are like, choose a cause that this donation is going to go to, I'm always like, well, fuck.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to make a choice between stopping human trafficking and saving the polar bears?
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that.
In a weird way, like supporting one thing, then at least for me, it makes me feel like I am like, I'm choosing this. Well, I am. I'm choosing this over the other. And so it's like making a statement about what's important and what isn't.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no, I can't. You still have to choose. It's awful.
Yeah. Nothing makes me feel so worried about the state of the world as those moments. When I'm just like,
But those are the moments when you're actually doing something.
I know, it's really
messed.
funny.
Yeah.
Particularly the choices between animals and children. Or like animals, you know what I mean? Like, I have to be like, wow, am I a deserter of my species? Or do I like care? What happens? Okay, let's not do this.
It's all, you know what? It all feeds into the same thing. Let's take a holistic approach.
Okay.
That the breakdowns are systematic. And so if you go to like, I don't know, mend or stitch one of the breakdowns, it'll ripple. How about that? That's probably true.
And doing something is obviously better than doing nothing.
Yeah. Like I tend to support environmental causes. Which maybe is the most cruel thing of all, apparently. No animal, like, there's animals in there, but mostly it's like the earth, which is, what does that even mean?
You're like, the biggest option here is the planet.
I'll just say everyone.
I'll just say everyone. You know, I don't do the environment because I'm like, oh, everyone's clicking environment. Because that's like obviously one of the more urgent. Is it?
It just feels like a more obvious thing. Like, obviously, let's have the planet not self-destruct. Whereas, like, those other things, it's like, I don't know.
Like,
I don't know the best course.
Humans.
No, I know it's not. Maybe they're happy.
Okay.
It just feels more complicated. And when it comes to environment, I'm like, no, let's take care of the oceans and rivers.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm into oceans.
Right. Who doesn't like a nice ocean?
We don't, because there's like an island of fucking floating plastic in there somewhere.
My friend posted a TikTok about plastic straws.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, huh. Apparently plastic straws, because there's like some people with like disabilities or like we need plastic straws as well. We can't just get rid of them. Because they bend a certain way and they're like gentle and they're like clean. I don't know. I can show you
what's happening.
No, I'm just saying. So like environmentalists are like, let's create like legislation banning all plastic straws.
Right. And you're saying...
And then apparently, no, like, plastic straws are useful for certain people and can't be substituted with, like, paper or metal.
Well, nobody should ever substitute anything with a paper straw. Paper straws
are the worst. I hate them. I hate them.
I would rather not have a straw.
Yeah. I'd rather just open my mouth.
I also don't care that much about having a straw.
Yeah, why do these people need straws? I mean, other than the people who need straws.
Right. It's a really, like, just drink your drink.
Who's like, oh no, it fell on me.
I need a pathway, a specific pathway from here to here. I can't lift. Straws are stupid.
It's strange. That's our lids sometimes. Sometimes.
Only sometimes. As someone who has spilled a lot of coffee in their car, I get lids. Yeah,
but as someone who's also been with someone with a lid who nonetheless spills coffee all over the car.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And maybe we should be training our adults to not spill. No, I don't know. Lids are sometimes necessary. Sometimes.
I feel like lids are more justified than
like
straws.
when I'm like driving and I am not lidding that cup, I feel like a badass. And I'm like, yeah, I can do this. And then I spill it everywhere. And I'm like, no, I can't do this.
If only you had a straw. No.
Ugh. Except for the people who need it.
I think we should just move on from that idea. Let's try.
We tried it.
It didn't work.
Like, good attempt, guys.
Yeah, it didn't work. Let's move on.
All right. Did we sum up? I think we summed up.
Did anything happen other than that?
Dolokhov might be dead. We don't know. He's got a mom and a sister at home. Who knew?
Who knew anything about him?
Who knew? No one. No one asked.
That was a little stupid, by the way.
What?
The fact that he's like, apparently he's like really nice to his mom.
Apparently he's an angel.
Like, obviously, who's not nice? Not who's not nice to their mom, but as if being nice to your mom is some like mark of a great man. It is?
No, I don't know.
That's like saying, I mean, everyone has people that they're cool to.
Right.
Doesn't make them like...
Well, there's something about mothers in this book.
It is?
It's like, but then my mother.
Like Mother Russia?
You know, like there was like the reunion with Rostov and his mother. It was like, but where is my mother?
Yeah, that was...
And then she appeared and it was like, oh, my mother.
He was like, I've never seen this dress before.
Yeah. That was so interesting. I was like, he knows his mother's dresses?
It must have been sewn whilst I was away.
Yes.
Maybe this writer is just an across-the-board weirdo.
Cultural difference. I don't know.
I mean,
mothers.
Maybe it is that. Maybe there are weird translation things happening. I mean, there are. There's always weird. There's got to be always.
It feels like son and mothers have this thing going on, not so much the daughters.
I can't think of one daughter and mother pair in the book.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Pierre and Helena are separated, and Dolokhov was gravely injured.
Yeah. And I don't think anything else happened.
No. So, book 4, chapter 7.
Imagine if instead of recapping what we read the previous night, we had to recap the whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
That would make more sense, but...
It would make sense.
It would also make less sense. Simultaneously.
Yeah.
Because who could do that?
Right? I think it's supposed to be like, you know, in war, you don't know what's going on. It's like in War and Peace, you don't know what's going on. This is classic. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Chapter 7. Sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, chapter 7.
Chapter 7. 2 months had elapsed.
This is going well so far.
It's going so good.
This is maybe the best one. 2 months.
2 months had elapsed since the news of the Battle of Austerlitz and the loss of Prince Andrew had reached Bald Hills, and in spite of the letters sent through the embassy and all the searches made, his body had not been found, nor was he on the list of prisoners. What was worst of all for his relations was the fact that there was still a possibility of his having been picked up on the battlefield by the people of the place, and that he might now be lying, recovering, or dying alone among strangers and unable to send news of himself. The gazettes from which the old prince first heard of the defeat at Austerlitz stated, as usual, very briefly and vaguely, that after brilliant engagements, the Russians had to retreat and had made their withdrawal in perfect order. The old prince understood from this official report that our army had been defeated. Right. A week after the Gazette report of the Battle of Austerlitz came a letter from Kutuzov informing the prince of the fate that had befallen his son.
Your son, wrote Kutuzov, fell before my eyes, a standard in his hand, and at the head of a regiment. He fell as a hero, worthy of his father and his fatherland.
Motherland.
To the great regret of myself and of the whole army, it is still uncertain whether he is alive or not. I comfort myself and you with the hope that your son is alive, for otherwise he would have been mentioned among the officers found on the field of battle, a list of whom has been sent me under flag of truce.
Late in the evening, when he was alone, the old prince went for his walk as usual next morning, but he was silent with his steward, the gardener, and the architect, and though he looked very grim, he said nothing to anyone.
When Princess Mary went to him at the usual hour, he was working at his lathe, and, as usual, did not look around at her.
Ah, Princess Mary, he said suddenly in an unnatural voice, throwing down his chisel. The wheel continued to revolve by its own impetus, and Princess Mary long remembered the dying creak of that wheel, which merged in her memory with what followed.
She approached him, saw his face, and something gave way within her. Her eyes grew dim. By the expression of her father's face, not sad, not crushed, but angry and working unnaturally, she saw that hanging over her and about to crush her was some terrible misfortune, the worst in life, one she had not yet experienced, irreparable and incomprehensible, the death of one she loved.
Father. Andrew, said the ungraceful, awkward princess with such an indescribable charm of sorrow and self-forgetfulness that her father could not bear her look but turned away with a sob.
Bad news. He's not among the prisoners nor among the killed. Kutuzov writes, and he screamed as piercingly as if he wished to drive the princess away by that scream. Killed!
But that's not what it said.
Not among the killed. Killed! I don't know.
Okay. The princess did not fall down or faint. She was already pale, but on hearing these words, her face changed and something brightened in her beautiful, radiant eyes. It was as if joy, a supreme joy, apart from the joys and sorrows of this world, overflowed the great grief within her. She forgot all fear of her father, went up to him, took his hand, and drawing him down, put her arm round his thin, scraggy neck.
Father, she said, do not turn away from me. Let us weep together.
Scoundrels! Blackguards! Shrieked the old man, turning his face away from her. Destroying the army, destroying the men, and why? Go and tell Lisa.
The princess sank helplessly into an armchair beside her father and wept. She saw her brother now as he had been at the moment when he took leave of her, and of Lisa, his look tender yet proud. She saw him tender and amused as he was when he put on the little icon. Did he believe? Had he repented of his unbelief? Was he now there in the realms of eternal peace and blessedness, she thought.
Father, tell how it happened, she asked through her tears.
Go. Killed in battle where the best of Russian men and Russia's glory were led to destruction. Go, Princess Mary. Go and tell Lisa. I will follow.
When Princess Mary returned from her father, the little princess sat working and looked up with that curious expression of inner, happy calm peculiar to pregnant women. It was evident that her eyes did not see Princess Mary, but were looking within, into herself, at something joyful and mysterious taking place within her.
Mary, she said, moving away from the embroidery frame and lying back. Give me your hand. She took her sister-in-law's hand and held it below her waist.
Her eyes were smiling expectantly. Her downy lip rose and remained lifted in childlike happiness.
Princess Mary knelt down before her and hid her face in the folds of her sister-in-law's dress.
There, do you feel it? I feel so strange. And do you know, Mary, I am going to love him very much, said Lisa, looking with bright and happy eyes at her sister-in-law.
Princess Mary could not lift her head. She was weeping.
What is the matter, Mary?
Nothing. Only I feel sad. Sad about Andrew, she said, wiping away her tears on her sister-in-law's knee.
Several times in the course of the morning, Princess Mary began trying to prepare her sister-in-law, and every time began to cry. Unobservant as was the little princess, these tears, the cause of which she did not understand, agitated her. She said nothing, but looked about uneasily as if in search of something. Before dinner, the old prince, of whom she was always afraid, came into her room with a peculiar, restless and malign expression and went out again without saying a word. She looked at Princess Mary, then sat thinking for a while with that expression of attention to something within her that is only seen in pregnant women, and suddenly began to cry.
Has anything come from Andrew? She asked.
No. You know it's too soon for news. But my father is anxious, and I feel afraid.
So there's nothing.
Nothing, answered Princess Mary, looking firmly with her radiant eyes at her sister-in-law.
She had determined not to tell her, and persuaded her father to hide the terrible news from her till after her confinement, which was expected within a few days. Princess Mary and the old prince each bore and hid their grief in their own way.
Not very successfully, Mary. And the princess is like, is something happening, guys? And they're like, no!
No. The old prince would not cherish any hope. He made up his mind that Prince Andrew had been killed, and though he sent an official to Austria to seek for traces of his son, he ordered a monument from Moscow, which he intended to erect in his own garden to his memory. And he told everybody that his son had been killed. He tried not to change his former way of life, but his strength failed him. He walked less, ate less, slept less, and became weaker every day. Princess Mary hoped. She prayed for her brother as living, and was always awaiting news of his return.
Chapter 8. Dearest, said the little princess after breakfast on the morning of the 19th March, and her downy little lip rose from old habit. But as sorrow was manifest in every smile, the sound of every word, and even every footstep in that house since the terrible news had come, so now the smile of the little princess, influenced by the general mood, though without knowing its cause, was such as to remind one still more of the general sorrow.
Dearest, I'm afraid this morning's Frühstück, breakfast, thanks, as Foka the cook calls it, has disagreed with me.
What is the matter with you, my darling? You look pale. Oh, you are very pale, said Princess Mary in alarm, running with her soft, ponderous steps. Isn't ponderous the opposite of soft?
Soft ponders.
Steps up to her sister-in-law. I think ponderous means the opposite.
A word to look up.
Ooh.
Slow and clumsy because of great weight.
Exactly.
Softly, clumsy of great weight.
Cool. Confusing.
Your Excellency, should not Mary Bogdanovna be sent for? Said one of the maids who was present. Mary Bogdanova was a midwife from the neighboring town who had been at Bald Hills for the last fortnight.
Oh, yes, assented Princess Mary. Perhaps that's it. I'll go. Courage, my angel. She kissed Lisa and was about to leave the room.
Oh, no. And besides the pallor and the physical suffering on the little princess's face, an expression of childish fear of inevitable pain showed itself.
No? It's only indigestion? Say it's only indigestion. Say so, Mary. Say. What? And the little princess began to cry capriciously like a suffering child and to wring her little hands even with some affectation. How old is she?
Oh no.
I get very confused by the fact that we keep calling her
The
little.
little princess. Why is she? There's so many princesses, but we've decided she's the little one.
I'm confused. Okay. To wring her little hands even with some affectation. Princess Mary ran out of the room to fetch Mary Bogdanovna.
Monsieur, monsieur. Oh, she heard as she left the room.
The midwife was already on her way to meet her, rubbing her small, plump, white hands. Everyone's hands in this book are gross. Plump, white hands with an air of calm importance.
Mary Bogdanovna, I think it's beginning, said Princess Mary, looking at the midwife with wide-open eyes of alarm.
Well, the Lord be thanked, Princess, said Mary Bogdanovna, not hastening her steps. You young ladies should not know anything about it.
But how is it the doctor from Moscow is not here yet, said the princess. In accordance with Lisa and Prince Andrew's wishes, they had sent in good time to Moscow for a doctor and were expecting him at any moment.
No matter, Princess. Don't be alarmed, said Mary Bogdanovna. We will manage very well without a doctor.
5 minutes later, Princess Mary from her room heard something heavy being carried by. She looked out. The men servants were carrying the large leather sofa from Prince Andrew's study into the bedroom. On their faces was a quiet and solemn look.
Princess Mary sat alone in her room listening to the sounds of the house, now and then opening her door when someone passed and watching what was going on in the passage. Some women passing with quiet steps in and out of the bedroom glanced at the princess and turned away. She did not venture to ask any. Why is she doing this?
I don't know. We just got disconnected.
I wonder if we could string them together, you know?
Yeah, I think
Because this happened yesterday as well.
Yeah.
It'd be good if we could.
We can combine them as videos, as 1 unit. I'm going to look into that.
I was going to say, this is all always in the future, this talk.
I know.
We're like, yeah.
No, I need to set aside time to actually do this.
My mom suggested 2 or 3 times that she walked me through today, and I was like, now's not the time. She was like, okay, why don't you tell me when the time is? And I was like, okay, I will. And then she was like, is now the time? Mama. I love her. She did not venture to ask any questions and shut the door again, now sitting down in her easy chair, now taking her prayer book, now kneeling before the icon stand. To her surprise and distress, she found that her prayers did not calm her excitement. Suddenly, her door opened softly and her old nurse, Praskovia Savishna, who hardly ever came into the room, as the old prince had forbidden it, appeared on the threshold with a shawl around her head.
I've come to sit with you a bit, Masha, said the nurse. And here I've brought the prince's wedding candles to light before his saint, my angel, she said with a sigh.
Oh, nurse, I'm so glad.
God is merciful, Bertie.
The nurse lit the gilt candles before the icons and sat down by the door with her knitting. Princess Mary took a book and began reading. They haven't seen each other in forever, and she's like, I'm here. And then it's like, just knitting in silence.
Yeah.
It's nice. Princess Mary took a book and began reading. Only when footsteps or voices were heard did they look at one another, the princess anxious and inquiring, the nurse encouraging. Everyone in the house was dominated by the same feeling that Princess Mary experienced as she sat in her room. But owing to the superstition that the fewer the people who know of it, the less a woman in travail suffers.
Yeah,
How convenient.
That's how it works. Yeah.
How fucking
Just
convenient.
pretend it's not happening.
The less people know how much it sucked, the less we'll know it sucked. Everyone tried to pretend not to know. No one spoke of it. This is the fucking worst. Imagine they're just like completely screwing the person in pain.
Yeah.
Oh. No one spoke of it, but apart from the ordinary, staid, and respectful good manners habitual in the prince's household, a common anxiety, a softening of the heart, oh how nice, and a consciousness that something great and mysterious was being accomplished at that moment made itself felt.
This is a cultural thing. Potentially. This just makes me think of like in the Art of Sharing, Amanda Palmer's book, she talks about like when she was sick, and she wanted Neil, her husband, to take care of her. And instead he just left her alone. And she was like, what the hell? Why do you do this? And he's like, oh, in my family, like it was rude. Like when someone was sick, you let them be.
Right.
That's how you treated a sick person. And she literally wanted the exact opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I shit like this goes on everywhere in the world. It's just like, It's really inconvenient. It's so convenient for everybody else.
Right. That's the logical conclusion. You're like, no, definitely my discomfort is that other person's discomfort too. Therefore.
And that's also very in line with the whole like not engaging with the reality of things that has been everywhere in the book in general.
Yeah.
Of like something mysterious and magical is happening in the basement, but let's not ever go there or talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was no laughter in the maid's large hall. In the men's servants' hall, all sat waiting, silently and alert. In the outlying serfs' quarters, torches and candles were burning, and no one slept. The old prince, stepping on his heels, paced up and down his study and sent Tikhon to ask Mary Bogdanovna what news. It's only that the old prince told me to ask, and come and tell me her answer.
Inform the prince that labor has begun, said Mary Bogdanovna, giving the messenger a significant look.
Tikhon went and told the prince.
Very good, said the prince, closing the door behind him, and Tikhon did not hear the slightest sound from the study after that.
After a while, he re-entered it, as if to snuff the candles, and seeing the prince was lying on the sofa, looked at him, noticed his perturbed face, shook his head, and going up to him, silently kissed him on the shoulder, and left the room without snuffing the candles or saying why he had entered. The most solemn mystery in the world continued its course. Evening passed, night came, and the feeling of suspense and softening of heart in the presence of the unknowable slept.
It was one of those March nights when winter seems to wish to resume its sway and scatters its last snows and storms with desperate fury. A relay of horses had been sent up the high road to meet the German doctor from Moscow, who was expected every moment, and men on horseback with lanterns were sent to the crossroads to guide him over the country road with its hollows and snow-covered pools of water.
Princess Mary had long since put aside her book. She sat silent, her luminous eyes fixed on her nurse's wrinkled face, every line of which she knew so well, on the lock of gray hair that escaped from under the kerchief, and the loose skin that hung under her chin.
Nurse Savishna, knitting in hand, was telling in low tones, scarcely hearing or understanding her own words, what she had told hundreds of times before, how the late princess had given birth to Princess Mary in Kishinev, with only a Moldavian peasant woman to help, instead of a midwife.
God is merciful, doctors are never needed, she said.
Suddenly a gust of wind beat violently against... That's so not true right now. Doctors never needed. How true. Suddenly, a gust of wind beat violently against the casement of the window, from which the double frame had been removed. By order of the prince, one window frame was removed in each room as soon as the locks returned, and forcing open a loosely closed latch, set the damask curtain flapping and blew out the candle with its chill, snowy draught. Princess Mary shuddered. Her nurse, putting down the stocking she was knitting, went to the window and, leaning out, tried to catch the open casement. The cold wind flapped the ends of her kerchief and her loose locks of grey hair.
Princess, my dear, there's someone driving up the avenue, she said, holding the casement and not closing it. With lanterns, most likely the doctor.
Oh my God, thank God, said Princess Mary. I must go and meet him. He does not know Russian.
Princess Mary threw a shawl over her head and ran to meet the newcomer. As she was crossing the anteroom, she saw through the window a carriage with lanterns standing at the entrance. She went out on the stairs. On a banister post stood a tallow candle, which guttered in the draught. On the landing below, Philip, the footman, stood looking scared and holding another candle. Still lower, beyond the turn of the staircase, one could hear the footstep of someone in thick felt boots, and a voice that seemed familiar to Princess Mary was saying something.
Thank God, said the voice. And father?
Gone to bed, replied the voice of Demian, the house steward, who was downstairs.
Andrew? Oh? Then the voice said something more. Demian replied, who the hell is Demian? Oh, the house steward.
Yeah.
You just said it. Sure.
Nitya, pay attention.
And the steps in the felt boots approached the unseen bend of the staircase more rapidly.
It's Andrew, thought Princess Mary. No, it can't be. That would be too extraordinary.
It really would.
And at the very moment she thought this, the very moment, the face and figure of Prince Andrew in a fur cloak, the deep collar of which was covered with snow, appeared on the landing where the footman stood with the candle. Yes, it was he, pale, thin, with a changed and strangely softened but agitated expression on his face. He came up the stairs and embraced his sister.
You did not get my letter, he asked, and not waiting for a reply, which she would not have received, for the princess was unable to speak, he turned back, rapidly mounted the stairs again with the doctor.
Oh, they arrived together?
I guess.
Okay.
And he was like, you didn't get my letter to the sister, and then just went upstairs.
You didn't get my letter?
Hi to you too, previously dead brother.
Granted, he's going to his wife, hopefully. Hopefully. He's just like going to his room.
I gotta pee bad. He turned back, rapidly mounted the stairs again with the doctor, who had entered the hall after him. They had met at the last post station. Imagine him being like, oh, where are you heading? And the doctor's like, this is this tiny, tiny princess with a weird mouth. She's having a baby, and I have been summoned. And he's like, wait, what? Stop.
Does her mouth kind of do this?
Does it go like this? Is it too short for her teeth? Wait. Where are we?
What a strange fate, Masha darling. And having taken off his cloak and felt boots, he went to the little princess' apartment. Oh, so we did embrace
And
him.
again embraced his sister.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Okay.
I was dissing him unnecessarily.
Yeah, it all gets explained later. Later.
I have to like reformat my whole thing because of the duel.
Mm-hmm.
Because while we did get told about who Dolokhov was as a character,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not exactly the same thing, but that turn is equally unexplained, and I'm equally like, hello?
Yeah.
Is anyone there to explain to us what just happened?
Yeah.
Cool. No one. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
He just turned into a... Yeah. Okay. Nothing. The end. Chapter 9. Chapter 9. The little princess lay supported by pillows. We never have this problem.
I know, we're usually so good. It just like happens naturally.
Yeah.
Like circle mirror transformation.
The little princess lay supported by pillows with a white cap on her head. The pains had just left her. Strands of her black hair lay around her inflamed and perspiring cheeks. Her charming, rosy mouth with its downy lip was open, and she was smiling.
I didn't picture a brunette. Interesting.
Oh, me either.
Yeah. Interesting. It's funny how much he focuses on these things that are like her lip, as opposed to the classic thing, which is like, she had red hair.
Right.
Yeah.
If I hear one more thing about Mary's eyes, I'm gonna freaking scream.
She's just eyes.
But yet she's horrendous.
She's horrendous, but luminous
So radiant.
eyes.
She just can't with the radiance. Okay. Her charming rosy mouth with its downy lip was open, and she was smiling joyfully. Prince Andrew entered and paused facing her at the foot of the sofa on which she was lying. So she's like, oh, he's back.
What perfect timing. It's all over now.
Her glittering eyes, filled with childlike fear and excitement, rested on him without changing their expression. I love you all and have done no harm to anyone. Why must I suffer so? Help me, her look seemed to say.
I thought she looked happy.
That's what I thought. Smiling joyfully. Oh, but then he entered, so maybe it changed when he entered? And then she had this
No, it says
totally
this
logical
is so
response.
weird. It literally says her glittering eyes filled with childlike fear and excitement rested on him without changing their expression.
Like
So I don't even know what that look is. What is that look if it's joyful but also I have suffered so? Help me.
Was that good?
That must be it. That's it.
She saw her husband, but did not realize the significance of his appearance before her now. Prince Andrew went round the sofa and kissed her forehead.
My darling, he said, a word he had never used to her before. God is merciful.
She looked at him inquiringly and with childlike reproach.
I expected help from you, and I get none. None from you either, said her eyes. She was not surprised at his having come. She did not realize that he had come. His coming had nothing to do with her sufferings or with their relief. The pangs began again. Oh, wait, oh, she's still in labor. Okay. Why did I think it was over?
Because it really seemed over.
Because she looked happy. Okay. The pangs began again, and Mary Bogdanovna advised Prince Andrew to leave the room.
The doctor entered. Prince Andrew went out, and meeting Princess Mary, again joined her. They began talking in whispers, but their talk broke off at every moment. What? At every moment. That's gotta be a mistranslation. It makes zero sense. Because they waited, they waited and listened, so they weren't whispering. Cool.
Yeah.
And listening.
Oh dear.
Next to hers. A woman came from the bedroom with a frightened face and became confused when she saw Prince Andrew. He covered his face with his hands and remained so for some minutes. Piteous, helpless animal moans came through the door. Prince Andrew got up, went to the door, and tried to open it. Someone was holding it shut.
You can't come in. You can't, said a terrified voice from within.
He began pacing the room. The screaming ceased, and a few more seconds went by. Then, suddenly, a terrible shriek. I feel like she's going to die. I don't know. Who cares? She's annoying. I'm just kidding. Then suddenly a terrible shriek. It could not be hers. She could not scream like that. It's Satan. Came from the bedroom. Prince Andrew ran to the door. The scream ceased and he heard the wail of an infant.
What have they taken a baby in there for?
I think that might be the best moment of the book.
Thought Prince Andrew in the first second. A baby? What baby? Why is there a baby there? Where's the baby born?
Then suddenly he realized the joyful significance of that wail. Tears choked him, in case his freaking brain deadness hadn't already. And leaning his elbows on the window sill, he began to cry, sobbing like a child. The door opened. The doctor, with his shirt sleeves tucked up, without a coat, pale, and with a trembling jaw, came out of the room. Prince Andrew turned to him, but the doctor gave him a bewildered look and passed by without a word. A woman rushed out and, seeing Prince Andrew, stopped, hesitating on the threshold. He went into his wife's room.
No. Okay.
She was lying dead in the same position he had seen her in 5 minutes before. And despite the fixed eyes and the pallor of the cheeks, the same expression was on her charming childlike face, with its upper lip covered with tiny black hair.
Why is the hair tiny now?
Everything about her is tiny.
Is it
Everything about her is
tiny
tiny. I wanted to give her upper lip the send-off that it deserves, as did Tolstoy, obviously.
Tiny black hair. What is that?
I don't know. I wouldn't know.
Well, she has the same look.
She's like, how could she have the same look?
I don't know.
That doesn't happen. Your muscles don't stay contracted.
That's a lot of effort to keep that look.
That's a good question, actually.
Oh, I love you all and have done no harm to anyone. And what have you done to me? Said her charming, pathetic, dead face.
Jesus Christ. In a corner of the room, something red and tiny gave a grunt and squealed in Mary Bogdanovna's trembling white hands.
2 hours later, Prince Andrew, stepping softly, went into his father's room.
I mean, good thing he didn't like his wife at all.
Oh yeah, there you go, Prince Andrew. Hey, you're a free man!
No problem.
The old man already knew everything. He was staying close to the door, and as soon as it opened, his rough old arms closed like a vice around his son's neck. Without a word, he began to sob like a child.
3 days later, the little princess was buried, and Prince Andrew went up the steps to where the coffin stood to give her the farewell kiss. And there in the coffin was that same face, with closed eyes. What have you done to me? It still seemed to say. And Prince Andrew felt that something gave way in his soul. Okay, so here's a question. Do you think that he is describing what her face actually looks like, or what's in Prince Andrew's mind?
What it looks like?
Interesting.
Yeah. But it might not be facially, it's like something spiritual.
Okay. Andrew felt that something gave way in his soul and that he was guilty of a sin he could neither remedy nor forget. He could not weep. The old man, too, came up and kissed the waxen little hands that lay quietly crossed one on the other on her breast, and to him, too, her face seemed to say, "Ah, what have you done to me, and why?" And at the sight, the old man turned angrily away.
Another 5 days passed, and then the young Prince Nicholas Andreevich was baptized. Wet nurse supported the coverlet with her chin.
Why did they have to name him that? So confused. It's going to be so confusing.
While the priest with a goose feather anointed the boy's little red and wrinkled soles and palms.
His grandfather, who was his godfather, trembling and afraid of dropping him, carried the infant round the battered tin font and handed him over to the godmother, Princess Mary. Prince Andrew sat in another room, faint with fear lest the baby should be drowned in the font, and awaited the termination of the ceremony. He looked up joyfully at the baby when the nurse brought it to him, and nodded approval when she told him that the wax with the baby's hair had not sunk in the font, but had floated. What? The wax with the baby's hair.
I don't know what that's mean.
I mean, clearly it's right.
Oh, it floated. It sounds like Groundhog Day.
It sounds like Stephen King.
Wow.
How are you feeling?
Why did she die? Prince Andrew was.
What kind of answer are you looking for?
I just want to know.
What, cosmically?
Yeah. He arrives home just in time to see her one last time before I must say goodbye forever. Also, like, the father was a dick to her, wasn't he?
Yeah, he doesn't like her still. The kiss sounds like a thing that they're supposed to do. Because it was called The. I mean, it was, you know what I mean? It said Andrew gave her the last kiss or something. So it might be a thing that's just a funeral. But a thing you do at a funeral. I'm almost glad she died because, and this is treating her very perfunctorily indeed, but he was a dick. He didn't love her and was like checked out, so like you don't deserve her. That's
Well,
obviously a little.
we don't get to see, like, if he's a changed man,
Which
we
seems
don't
like
get to
he
see
is.
him treat her differently.
Whose loss is that? I mean, obviously his. And also hers, yeah, because she, like, died with a probably husband.
Yeah. Yeah. And now it's like, if he is a changed man, it'll be like, oh, because of the loss of his wife. I don't know. He'll get sympathy because his wife died. I also think it's weird that they left her alone. Like, wouldn't it be good to have one person you know in there? She died surrounded by strangers. It's terrifying.
It's really weird. I think, like, I imagine that the way historically we've treated women in childbirth is probably like,
Shut them up in a room. Go do that over there.
yeah, and having spectated it, it's like kind of a pure intense.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything that intense in my life. I was so desensitized, I think, to the idea of screaming pregnant women.
Mm-hmm.
Not pregnant women, but like laboring. I was like, yeah, they
Right.
it's almost
like, I've seen movies, I've seen television.
right. It's like that's what they do. They're like, ah, and they like curse people out. I don't. Maybe I just never had thought about it in this way, or maybe it was seeing somebody I know and like love and also know the history of, because I know what my sister is like in pain.
Right.
Like I have a whole lifetime's worth of information about her being in situations of pain.
Yeah.
And so to see like even her be transformed into this thing that was like obviously much more of a concept to me than it was like a felt. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of things that I haven't imagined experiencing.
Wait, but you saw her turn into a concept?
No.
Or like, did it shatter like the idea of it?
It shattered the idea.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's what the screaming is. Because it's like there's a fracking demon trying to get out of your body.
Yeah, you don't actually connect to like, it's not like they wanted screaming. Like they're not even aware of that. That's like the response to something that is that painful that the only thing that you can do is do that.
Yeah.
And continuously for hours and hours and hours.
And that kind of doesn't feel like I don't think we tell that story very well. Because clearly I had or maybe it's a reflection of my two-dimensional handling of it, but I was like, oh, this is how much it hurts. Mm-hmm. It just was different to me. Maybe everything is when you finally experience it or see it or whatever. Yeah. I guess it becomes real in a different way.
It's weird to think you were part of that too.
What do you mean?
Like you have been at a birth.
Why is that weird?
Because it's like something that intense you should remember, but no one does.
What do you mean no one does?
I mean your own birth.
Getting birth.
Yeah, it's weird to think, whatever, this is going in a weird direction, but it's weird to think that like you were birthed and there was like a screaming woman around you.
I think it's probably of significance that you are still connected to your mother when she is in extreme distress.
Yeah.
because obviously what happens with the mother hugely affects the child.
Right.
So it almost seems like, I've never thought about this before. That's really interesting. It almost seems like there has to be trauma going on, unless there's something biologically special that happens because the child has also like some amount of work to do. You know what I mean? Like there might be like an evolutionary adaptive thing that happens that, I don't know.
That's funny.
Like maybe they get protected by it.
It's funny to think of it in terms of trauma. You know, because it would be a traumatic experience, even if it ends with like a happy ending. It's still traumatic. And then just like the number of women who deal with depression afterwards. I know a lot of that is hormonal too, but it's like really weird how like 2 days later they're like, okay, go home, bye. Move on with your life. Shall we continue? Oh, we're going back to Moscow. Chapter 10. Rostov's share in Dólokhov's duel with Bezhukov, which was hushed up by the efforts of the old count, and instead of being degraded to the ranks as he expected, he was appointed an adjutant to the Governor-General of Moscow. As a result, he could not go to the country with the rest of the family, but was kept all summer in Moscow by his new duties. Dólokhov recovered, and Rostov became very friendly with him during his convalescence. Dólokhov lay ill at his mother's, who loved him passionately and tenderly, and old Mary Ivanovna, who had grown fond of Rostov for his friendship to her Fedya, often talked to him about her son.
Yes, Count, she would say, he is too noble and pure-souled for our present depraved world. No one now loves virtue. It seems like a reproach to everyone. Now tell me, Count, was it right, was it honorable of Bezhukov? And Fedya, with his noble spirit, loved him, and even now never says a word against him. Those pranks in Petersburg when they played some tricks on a policeman, didn't they do it together? And there, Bezhukov got off scot-free while Fedya had to bear, no pun intended, the whole burden on his shoulders. Fancy what he had to go through. It's true he has been reinstated, but how could they fail to do that? I think there were not many such gallant sons of the fatherland out there as he. And now, this duel, have these people no feeling or honor? Knowing him to be an only son, to challenge him and shoot so straight. It's a well God had mercy on us. And what was it for? Who doesn't have intrigues nowadays? Why, if he was so jealous as I see things, he should have shown it. What? As I see things, he should have shown it sooner. But he lets it go on for months. And then, to call him out, this sounds like it did happen. And then to call him out, reckoning on Fedya not fighting because he owed him money. What baseness, what meanness. I know you understand Fedya, my dear Count, but that, believe me, is why I am so fond of you. It's got nothing to do with who you are. Few people do understand him. He is such a lofty, heavenly soul.
Okay, Mama. Dólokhov himself, during his convalescence, spoke to Rostov in a way no one would have expected of him.
I know people consider me a bad man, he said. Let them. I don't care a straw about anyone. This actually doesn't sound that surprising.
Right. This sounds very keeping with his character.
Yeah. I don't care a straw about anyone, but those who I love. But those I love so that I would give my life for them. And the others I'd throttle if they stood in my way. Cool. I have an adored, priceless mother and 2 or 3 friends, you among them. And as for the rest, I only care about them insofar as they are harmful or useful. Sweet. And most of them are harmful, especially the women. Yes, dear boy, he continued. I have met loving, noble, high-minded men, but I have not yet met any woman, countesses or cooks, who were not venal. Mother and sister.
Yeah. But they're not counted. They're something else.
Okay. I have not yet met that divine purity and devotion I look for in women. I'm sure you fucking know one. If I found such a one, I'd give my life to her, but those... And he made a gesture of contempt. And believe me, if I still value my life, it is only because I still hope to meet such a divine creature who will regenerate, purify, and elevate me. But you don't understand it.
Oh, yes, I quite understand, answered Rostov, who was under his new friend's influence.
In the autumn, the Rostovs returned to Moscow. Early in the winter, Denisov also came back and stayed with them. The first half of the winter of 1806, which Michael, where do you think I got that?
Oh,
Which Nicholas Rostov spent in Moscow, maybe from Moscow, was one of the happiest, merriest times for him and the whole family. Nicholas brought many young men to his parents' house. Vera was a handsome girl of 20, Sonya a girl of 16, with all the charm of an opening flower. Natasha, half grown up and half child, was now childishly amusing. Now
there prevailed an forest atmosphere characteristic of homes where there are very young and very charming girls. Every young man who came to the house, seeing those impressionable, smiling young faces, smiling probably at their own happiness, feeling the eager bustle around him, and hearing the fitful bursts of song and music and the inconsequent but friendly prattle of young girls ready for anything and full of hope, experienced the same feeling, sharing with the young folk of the Rostovs' household a readiness to fall in love and an expectation of happiness.
how sweet. What do you think charming is?
Charming? What do you mean?
Like the way he uses it, charming.
It's charmed. With all the charm of an opening flower, like the appeal.
Okay. Among the young men introduced by Rostov, one of the first was Dolokhov. Great. Why would Rostov do that to his sisters and cousin? Whom everyone in the house liked except Natasha. She almost quarreled with her brother about him. She insisted that he was a bad man and that in the duel with Bezhukov, Pierre was right and Dolokhov wrong, and further that he was disagreeable and unnatural.
There's nothing for me to understand, she cried out with resolute self-will. He is wicked and heartless. There now, I like your Denisov, though he is a rake and all that. Still, I like him. So you see, I do understand. I don't know how to put it. With this one, everything is calculated, and I don't like that. But Denisov...
Oh, Denisov is quite different, replied Nicholas, implying that even Denisov was nothing compared to Dolokhov. What? You must understand what a soul there is in Dolokhov. Nicholas is very impressionable.
He really is.
He's like
very nice.
All about his man crushes.
Dolokhov.
What is he, just like cast aside the emperor?
Yeah. What about Alexander?
Jenessa was nothing compared to Dolokhov. You must understand what a soul there is in Dolokhov. You should see him with his mother. What a heart.
Bonded over mother love. Well, I don't know about that, but I am uncomfortable with him. And you know he has fallen in love with Sonya.
What nonsense.
I'm certain of it. You'll see.
Natasha's prediction proved true. Dolokhov, who did not usually care for the society of ladies, began to come often to the house, and the question for whose sake he came, though no one spoke of it, was soon settled. He came because of Sonya. I wonder who's going to make shit weird. And Sonya, though she would never have dared to say so, knew it, and blushed scarlet every time Dolokhov appeared.
Dolokhov often dined at the Rostovs, never missed a performance at which they were present, and went to Logol's balls for young people, which the Rostovs always attended. He was pointedly attentive to Sonya, and looked at her in such a way that not only could she not bear his glances without coloring, but even the old countess and Natasha blushed when they saw his looks.
Cool. It was evident that the strange, strong man was under the irresistible influence of the dark, graceful dog.
I guess she's got dark hair too.
Of the dark, graceful girl who loved another.
Rostov noticed something new in Dolikov's relations with Sonya, but he did not explain to himself what these new relations were. They're always in love with someone, he thought of Sonya and Natasha, but he was not as much at ease with Sonya and Dolikov as before and was less frequently at home.
No shit. In the autumn of 1806, everybody had again begun talking of the war with Napoleon with even greater warmth than the year before. Is war seasonal?
Ah, that war is starting up again. Good God. I don't know what they've been doing.
Why is everyone on spring break? At the same time.
I don't know. He was on leave. I don't know if there's been fighting in the meantime. I don't know why they haven't been
doesn't sound like it.
nobody's
been talking about it.
Yeah.
And all the characters that we know are home right now.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like.
Oh.
Okay. Orders were given to raise recruits, 10 men in every 1,000 for the regular army, and Bonaparte was anathematized. What?
Anathematized.
I don't know. It sounds a lot like anathema, but I don't know why that would make sense here.
Like unspeakable.
Unspeakable?
Yeah.
Anathema is like just
Cursed, condemned.
That's anathema?
Yeah. Detested. Yeah.
Are there multiple definitions? I don't feel like that's how I've heard it.
Anathema. A ban or curse? Do you mean banned? Is that how you often think of it?
No, I think about it as like yeah, I think of it as like the quintessential opposite of something. So like if I were very virtuous, violence would be like anathema to me.
Yeah, okay.
Like conflicting cause,
right,
or something. That's how I thought.
Hmm.
I don't know. I'll look it up later. Or look it up more.
All these words.
Anathematized. Oh, Questlove has started his set 4 minutes ago. And in Moscow, nothing but the coming war was talked of. Yeah, I think it's fucking seasonal. That seems weird.
Maybe they're regrouping.
Yeah.
They suffered a pretty bad defeat. I don't know what happened with the French army after that, though. If they won, wouldn't they be like, great? Now we got them at the ropes. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Huh. At the ropes, on the ropes.
On the ropes.
At the ropes.
On the ropes.
Amidst the ropes.
Rope adjacent. For the Rostov family, the whole interest of these preparations for war lay in the fact that Nicholas would not hear of remaining in Moscow and only awaited the termination of Denisov's furlough. Furlough. One of the 10 trending words on
Maybe everyone else is reading this book too.
That's what it is. Everyone's gotten to location 7432.
Everyone's at that.
Denisov's furlough after Christmas to return with him to their regiment. His approaching departure did not prevent his amusing himself, but rather gave zest to his pleasures. What? He spent the greater part of his time away from home at dinners, parties, and balls. Great. living his life.
What's the difference between a party and a ball?
I think maybe balls are like more formal. Like you have to dress even more magnificently, and maybe there are like social dances.
And a party does not have that.
Balls always have dancing.
Yes, and a party could.
And a party might.
Okay.
There might just be
That's the distinction.
drinking and carousing. Carousing? Is that the word I want?
Yeah, I think so. Chapter 11. On the third day after Christmas, Nicholas dined at home, a thing he had rarely done of late. It was a grand farewell dinner, as he and Jenessa were leaving to join their regiment after Epiphany. What's Epiphany?
Sounds like a holiday.
Okay. About 20 people were present, including Dolokhov and Denisov.
Never had love been so much in the air, and never had the amorous atmosphere. I don't like that phrase, amorous atmosphere. It feels so skeevy. Had the amorous atmosphere made itself so strongly felt in the Rostov houses at this holiday time. Seize the moments of happiness, love and be loved. That is the only reality of the world, said the spirit of the place.
Nicholas, having as usual exhausted 2 pairs of horses, without visiting all the places he meant to go to and where he had been invited, returned home just before dinner. As soon as he entered, he noticed and felt the tension of the amorous air in the house. I feel it.
Oh God, it's amorous in here.
And also noticed a curious embarrassment among some of those present. Sonya, Dolokhov, and the old countess were especially disturbed, and to a lesser degree Natasha. Nicholas understood that something must have happened between Sonya and Dolokhov before dinner, and with the kindly sensitiveness natural to him...
Sensitiveness? Isn't there another word for that?
Sensitiveness. Natural to him, was very gentle and wary with them both at dinner. On that same evening, there was to be one of the balls that Yogol, the dancing master, gave for his pupils during the holidays.
See? Balls that a dancing master gave.
That
was like, I was just shooting about in the dark, but I think
you nailed it.
I think a broken clock is right twice a day, you know. Okay. Nicholas, will you come to Yogol's? Please do, said Natasha. He asked you. And Vasily Dmitrik?
Denisov.
Is also going. That's Denisov?
Mm-hmm.
You remember?
No, I checked it.
How did you check it?
There's a little footnote. Goes doop. And I go boop. Wait.
What?
Mm-hmm. Tricks.
Have those been there this whole time?
For some of them.
Would be very curious to meet. I would like to be notified when they come.
Okay.
I'm really interested in where
Sometimes
they
I throw them in.
I've never heard you just volunteer the name of a person.
No, you remember when it was like breakfast in front in German?
No,
I was like, duh, duh.
The language stuff, yes, but
Yeah.
who a character is.
It's not option for the character. That would be useful. I think it's only because we've never called him that before.
I mean, that's not stopped him before, right?
I don't know. It's very random what they add a little footnote to. I'm like, oh, thank you for telling me that, but not
this other thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where would I not go at the Countess's command, said Denisov, who at the Rostovs had jocularly assumed the role of Natasha's knight. I'm even ready to dance the Padishal.
If I have time, answered Nicholas, but I promised the Arkarovs they have a party.
You? He asked Dolokhov. But as soon as he had asked the question, he noticed that it should not have been put.
Perhaps. Coldly and angrily replied Dolokhov, glancing at Sonya and scowling. He's eating at their house and is like dissing one of the family members? Cool.
He's like it's a soft scowl. Like,
perhaps. He gave Nicholas just such a look as he had given Pierre at the club dinner.
There's something up, thought Nicholas, and he was further confirmed in this conclusion by the fact that Dolokhov left immediately.
Imagine if they duel now.
He's so stupid. He called Natasha and asked her what was the matter.
And I was looking for you, said Natasha, running out to him. I told you, but you would not believe it, she said triumphantly. He has proposed to Sonya.
Little as Nicholas had occupied himself with Sonya of late, something seemed to give way within him at this news. Dolokhov was a suitable and in some respects a brilliant match for the dowerless orphan girl. Oh, right, she's a cousin? Oh, yeah, I always forget that. But she's his cousin. Okay.
Yeah. I don't forget that, but I had no idea what it means, like, socially, because it seems like she's a part of the family.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it does. From the point of view of the old countess and of society, it was out of the question for her to refuse him. And therefore, Nicholas's first feeling on hearing the news was one of anger with Sonya. He tried to say, that's capital. Of course, she'll forget her childish promises and accept the offer. Before he had time to say it, Natasha began again.
And fancy, she refused him quite definitely, adding after a pause, she told him she loved him.
Yes, my Sonya could not have done it.
Much as Mama pressed her, she refused, and I know she won't change once she has said.
Mama pressed her, said Nicholas reproachfully.
Yes, said Natasha. Do you know, Nicholas, don't be angry, but I know you will not marry her. I know heaven knows how, but I know for certain that you won't marry her.
Now you don't know that at all, said Nicholas. I must talk to her. What a darling Sonya is, he added with a smile.
What an awkward douchebag. She's so lovely.
She's so lovely. She's so lovely. Nicest. She's just waiting for me.
You don't know that I'll definitely break her heart. I mean, obviously he's going to. Mm-hmm. Although I think she's dodging a bullet with Dolokhov.
Yeah.
That's obviously not going to go well either.
Maybe. Well, we'll see. She's just pining after Nicholas her whole life. That's not great.
No, it's not. And at first I was like, what are you doing? Go. Do it. But then I was like, let's don't come.
But see, like, the good men in this story have been terrible to their wives thus far. So
There's
maybe the bad guy,
I
mean, or like a douchebag would be good to a wife. I don't know.
Which he is to his mother and sister. Clearly.
Exactly.
She is indeed a darling. Natasha's dense sometimes. And really not dense at other times. I'll send her to you.
And Natasha kissed her brother and ran away.
A minute later, Sonya came in with a frightened, guilty, and scared look. Nicholas went up to her and kissed her hand. This was the first time since his return that they had talked alone and about their love.
Sophie, he began, timidly at first, and then more and more boldly.
And she's like, my name is Sonya.
If you wish to refuse one who is not only a brilliant and advantageous match, but a splendid, noble fellow, he is my friend.
Sonya interrupted him. I have already refused, she said hurriedly.
If you are refusing for my sake, I am afraid that
Sonya again interrupted. She gave him an imploring, frightened look.
Nicholas, don't tell me that.
Oh, God. No, but I must. It may be arrogant of me, but still, it is best to say it. If you refuse him on my account, I must tell you the whole truth. I love you, and I think I love you more than anyone else.
That is enough for me, said Sonya, blushing.
No, but I have been in love 1,000 times. Like with
Mostly
every
with
guy. And shall fall in love again. Though for no one have I such a feeling of friendship.
Even though we haven't been alone, like, in a year, pretty much.
I never tell you anything. I feel like you're my best friend. Because a best friend is someone who's always waiting for you to care about them. That's what friendship is. Okay. Confidence and love as I have for you. Then I am young. Mama does not wish it. In a word, I make no promise. And I beg you to reconsider Dorocop's offer, he said, articulating his friend's name with difficulty. Is this him being like a great man?
I don't know.
I can't tell.
No, don't say that to me. I want nothing. I love you as a brother and always shall, and I want nothing more.
You are an angel. That's a lie.
Yeah, it is. She just said, it's because I love you.
When did she say that?
Didn't she?
No.
You're refusing. I've already refused. Maybe she didn't say that. She said that is enough for me. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Like.
Yeah, she did. You are an angel. I am not worthy of you, but I am afraid of misleading you. So let me continue to do it. So just.
He's like, I can't promise you anything. I'm really probably not going to marry you. So you should consider
that.
Don't look up.
You could consider.
She's like, I don't want anything with you. Okay.
You're right.
Amazing.
Nicholas doesn't. I wonder about his moral compass sometimes.
Just like, I think he's just like a. Life is so wonderful.
He's a bit like of a dick.
He's just the one in the forest who was like, but Mama loves me, right? When the Frenchman came. Yeah, I think that's how he approaches everything.
Yeah, cool.
But that wouldn't be fair.
But Mama loves me. What a great moment that was. Like the French hordes are like rushing in slow motion towards him with fucking bayonets and stuff. And he's like, like, do you think he looked like he was thinking, but Mama loves me? Or do you think he was like, do you know what I'm saying?
I think he looked like Mama loves me. Like he was like, oh, what's happening now?
What are you guys doing? Hey guys.
I guess nothing bad ever happened to him. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
It really seems like it.
Thanks, Sonya.
Except for one thing bad happened to him.
What?
He could have been the guy.
Oh. This is one great disappointment.
Isn't it?
That he could have been there with the Emperor.
It could have been his hand. Wasn't it some kind of like...
Yeah, but like...
There's some physical...
Nothing happened to him. He just didn't act. So he's like, oh, stupid Nicholas.
We'd be together right now if I...
That could have been us.
We'd love each other forever. If only I had said something.
I think Nicholas is the secret hero of this.
He's confusing. Are we done? The only thing that I'll say is that I'm hungry, as usual.
We can be done. Or we could not be. Let's do one more. It's a short chapter.
It is?
Yeah.
Cool. Chapter 12. Yogles were the most enjoyable balls in Moscow. So said the mothers as they watched their young people executing their newly learned steps, and so said the youths and maidens themselves as they danced till they were ready to drop. And so said the grown-up young men and women who came to these. Imagine what a boring thing this is. Everyone's just saying the same thing. Like every conversation is like, this is just such a great ball.
The ball is amazing. Yogles are the finest balls.
These are the best balls. This is like the best of the balls. It's because it's his. Yogle.
It's stimulating.
Yogle. There goes the mic.
Keep going.
No, I'm not done with this. I'm not done with this.
Yeah, keep
dramatic.
Going. No, I think.
Oh, that's what you meant by keep going.
Yeah,
like keep going in the
keep
ball.
Keep going. Yeah. Say more about these balls.
And so said the grown-up young men and women who came to these balls with an air of condescension and found them almost enjoyable. That year, 2 marriages had come of these balls.
That's why they're the best.
These are the best balls.
I don't want to go now.
I cannot wait for his balls.
Stop.
Did you just tell me to stop it?
Stop it.
You're always the one like giggling at the stupid, what's it called?
But now I've matured. Where are you?
You've changed. So have I, for the worse. Okay. 2 marriages had come of these balls. The 2 pretty young princesses Gorchakov met suitors there and were married, and so further increased the fame of these dancers. What distinguished them from others was the absence of host or hostess and the presence of the good-natured Yogle, flying about like a feather and bowing according to the rules of his art as he collected the tickets from all visitors. There was the fact that only those came who wished to dance and amuse themselves as girls of 13 and 14 do, who are wearing long dresses for the first time. With scarcely any exceptions, they all were, or seemed to be, pretty. So rapturous were their smiles and so sparkling their eyes. Sometimes the best of the pupils, of whom Natasha, who was exceptionally graceful, was first, even danced the pas de châle. What's châle? Okay. But at this last ball, only the Écossaises, the Anglaises, I wonder who the Écossaises are, the Anglaises and the mazurka, which was just coming into fashion, were danced, or their dances. Yogle had taken a ballroom in Bazhukov's house, and the ball, as everyone said, was a great success. There were many pretty girls, and the Rostov girls were among the prettiest. They were both particularly happy and gay. That evening, proud of Dolkov's proposal, her refusal, and her explanation with Nicholas, Sonya twirled about before she left home, so that the maid could hardly get her hair plaited, and she was transparently radiant with impulsive joy. Oh, God, that's just, she's got a little like hook in this like toxic love.
Natasha, no less proud of her first long dress and of being at a real ball, was even happier. They were both dressed in white muslin with pink ribbons.
Natasha fell in love the very moment she entered the ballroom. She was not in love with anyone in particular, but with everyone. Whatever person she happened to look at, she was in love with for that moment.
Oh, how delightful it is, she kept saying, running up to Sonya.
Nicholas and Denisov were walking up and down, looking with kindly patronage at the dancers.
How sweet she is. She will be a real beauty, said Denisov.
Who?
Countess Natasha, answered Denisov.
And how she dances! What grace! He said again after a pause.
Who are you talking about?
About your sister, ejaculated Denisov testily.
Of course.
Testily ejaculating.
Oh God. Rostov smiled.
Of course he did. What else would he do? Okay. My dear Count, you were one of my best pupils. You must dance, said little Yogel, coming up to Nicholas. Look how many charming young ladies, he turned with the same request to Denisov, who was also a former pupil of his.
No,
you know Denisov grew up in the neighborhood, did you?
I didn't know this, but apparently. Yeah. No, my dear fellow, I'll be a wallflower, said Denisov. Don't you recollect what bad use I made of your lessons?
Oh, no, said Yogel. Is this in italics for you?
Huh?
Is this in italics for you?
Oh, no?
This whole sentence. Oh, no, said Yogel, hastening to reassure him.
No, that's
you were
very
only,
strange.
Isn't it? You were only... Okay, well, it's suddenly changed.
Oh, suddenly it's italics. Suddenly it's getting real. Or dreamlike. We're not sure.
Okay. You were inattentive, but you had talent. Oh, yes, you had talent.
The band struck up the newly introduced mazurka. Nicholas could not refuse Yogel and asked Sonya to dance. Denisov sat down by the old ladies and leaning over, told them something funny and kept... I know it got very weird, the formatting.
It's suddenly in verse.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. Denisov sat down by the old ladies and leaning on his saber and beating time with his foot, told them something funny and kept them amused while he watched the young people dancing. Yogel with Natasha, his pride and his best pupil, were the first couple. Noiselessly, skillfully stepping with his little feet in low shoes, Yogel flew first across the hall with Natasha, who, though shy, went on carefully executing her steps. Denisov did not take his eyes off her and beat time with his saber in a way that clearly indicated that if he was not dancing, it was because he would not and not because he could not. Ah.
Because he's beating time with a saber, everyone's like, he can clearly dance.
In the middle of a figure, he beckoned to Rostov, who was passing.
This is not at all the thing, he said. What sort of Polish mazurka is this? But she does dance splendidly.
Knowing that Denisov had a reputation even in Poland for the masterly way in which he danced the mazurka, Nicholas ran up to Natasha.
Go and choose Denisov. He's a real dancer. A wonder, he said.
When it came to Natasha's turn to choose a partner, she rose and, tripping rapidly across in her little shoes trimmed with bows, ran timidly to the corner where Denisov sat. She saw that everybody was looking at her and waiting. Nicholas saw that Denisov was refusing, though he smiled delightedly. He ran up to them.
Please, Vasily Dmitrich, said, Natasha was saying. Do come.
Oh, no, let me off, Countess, Denisov replied.
Now then, Vaska, said Nicholas.
They coaxed me as if I were Vaska the cat, said Denisov jokingly.
Good one, Denisov. I'll sing for you a whole evening, said Natasha.
Oh, the Fowie. She could do anything with me, said Denisov, and he unhooked his saber. He came out from behind the chairs, clasped his partner's hand firmly, threw back his head, and advanced his foot, waiting to the beat.
He was just playing hard to get.
He was like, no, not
And then he was like,
not me. Yes. Clasped his partner's hand firmly, threw back his head, and advanced his foot, waiting for the beat. Only on horseback and in the mazurka was Denisov's short stature not noticeable, and he looked the fine fellow he felt himself to be. At the right beat of the music, he looked sideways at his partner with a merry and triumphant air, suddenly stamped with one foot, bounded from the floor like a ball, and flew round the room, taking his partner with him. He glided silently on one foot half across the room, and seeming not to notice the chairs, was dashing straight at them, when suddenly, clinking his spurs and spreading out his legs, he stopped short on his heels, stood so a second, stamped on the spot, clanking his spurs, whirled rapidly round.
I feel that I should be doing this.
I know, to demonstrate. Yeah. You really should.
Just clarify.
And striking his left heel against his right, flew round again in a circle. Natasha guessed what he meant to do, and abandoning herself to him, followed his lead, hardly knowing how. First he spun her round, holding her now with his left, now with his right hand, then falling on one knee, and he twirled her round him, and again jumping up, dashed so impetuously forward that it seemed as if he would rush through the whole suite of rooms without drawing breath. And then he suddenly stopped and performed some new and unexpected steps.
His dancing sounds very
It sounds like
stressful. People were like, "Oh no!" Okay.
And then he suddenly stopped and performed some new and unexpected steps. When at last, smartly whirling his partner round in front of her chair, he drew up with a click of his spurs and bowed to her. Natasha did not even make him a curtsy. She fixed her eyes on him in amazement, smiling as if she did not recognize him.
What does this mean? She brought out.
Although Yogol did not acknowledge this to be the real mazurka, everyone was delighted with Denisov's skill. He was asked again and again as a partner, and the old man began smilingly to talk about Poland and the good old days. Denisov flushed after the mazurka and mopping himself with his handkerchief, sat down by Natasha and did not leave her for the rest of the evening.
She's 16. I just want to.
I don't know how old
everyone.
he is.
Well, he's an adult. I always picture him as older, but I don't think he is. I think he's considered one of the young.
25? Probably something like that.
I think they would call him an old bachelor by then.
Usually there's an age discrepancy. Well, I think we're going to end there.
Yes. With a flourish.
With a flourish. A mazurka.
That was thrilling.
Do you know the mazurka dance? I was sincerely asking.
I'm not Polish.
Are you now?
Can you tell?
Interesting heritage.
Can't you tell? Isn't it obvious?
What's this?
The folk group Mazovshe has gained worldwide acclaim with its renditions of Polish dances, especially the mazurka, a lively Polish folk dance in triple time.
A folk dance.
A folk dance.
Didn't really expect that.
I feel like when men are admired for their dancing skills, it's interesting.
What?
I think it's interesting.
What?
I don't know. It's like this weird. It's very masculine, but then, like, that to me is like, then what's wrong with Billy Elliot? Anyway.
I think it's just a kind of dance, maybe. I think it's a kind of dance.
Yeah.
Like maybe it would be different if it wasn't ballet.
Ballet.
Because it's so like refined and like really graceful.
Again, that would be impressive, right?
Impressive, certainly, yeah. The very end of Billy Elliot's pretty thrilling. Do you remember it?
Is he the swan?
You don't see his face or something? Or it's in, he's wearing a lot of makeup. Either way, it's like, who is that? And then he does this like giant entrance. Wow!
Exactly. That's the appropriate response.
Yeah. I think men get a lot of affirmation in certain forms of dance.
Maybe it's cultural.
I think it definitely there's a strong cultural thing. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it might have something to do with whether something is folk or not. Like, I think that folk dances, by and large, are interpreted as being more masculine than classical forms. So if it's a culture that really only has classical forms, then dancing is going to be girly. And if it's a culture that has folk forms, then men's participation is like pretty prominent in it.
But the girliness of it, like, that's just because that becomes the thing to do at the time. So I'm thinking of like Pride and Prejudice now when it's very like, but that's because like men were expected to be refined in that way. So if you show refinement in your dancing, isn't that something that should be impressive?
Refinement is not a masculine. Is not in the.
But it's going with like the dress and the air and the.
I know, and we now perceive that as like girly. That they were like wearing stockings and stuff. We being the general we. Ruffles and stockings and.
Yeah. I'm gonna go back to. I think we are going back to that world.
What world?
Maybe we've always been there. I should just like men as peacocks, you know?
They're totally peacocks.
Well, that went away for a while.
I don't think it ever did.
No?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's just the like what it looks like has changed. But it's always there.
Okay.
Okay.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.